Hey there, welcome everybody to another edition of TXN Sports World. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined as always by good old MF Michael Fletcher and Michael Bullock. Before we get into the mass recaps that we have here tonight, there is a developing situation in the National Hockey League. The NHL and NHLPA are in the final stages of agreeing to a 4-year extension of the CBA that includes an 84-game regular season, provides a solution for emergency goalies, and limits player contract lengths to 7 years. Sources confirmed to ESPN on Thursday. The deal could be announced as soon as tomorrow, ahead of the NHL draft, but would still need to be signed by both sides and ratified. NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman gave the Board of Governors a detailed update at its meeting in Los Angeles on Wednesday, outlining the key issues. The current CBA expires after next season. A 4-year extension would carry the league and its players through September of 2030. Moving from 82 to 84 games in the regular season would shorten the preseason to a maximum of 4 games per team. Instead of the current format of up to 8 preseason games, an increased regular season would allow the NHL to keep its regular format of every team visiting an opponent once, while giving divisional rivals 4 games against each other every other season. The new CBA will limit contract lengths for players to 7 years. It will also eliminate deferred salary, which was bubbling up as a trend some teams were using to keep cap hits low. As of now, players can re-sign for 8 years with their current team or 7 years in free agency. Going forward, players can re-sign for a max of 7 years with their current team and 6 years in free agency. The new deal also includes revised language that would establish a new position within organizations of full-time emergency backup goaltenders, often called e-bugs, who can practice and travel with the team. Over the past several seasons, the system has brought hockey fantasies into reality with accountants and Zamboni drivers suiting up in NHL games. Both sides discussed eliminating the long-term injured reserve loophole to ensure teams are salary cap compliant in the playoffs, and revised language is expected in the new CBA, again, sources told ESPN. The new CBA will bring much welcome labor peace to a league that has seen 3 lockouts in the last 20 years. This is the first major negotiation for Marty Walsh, the former Boston mayor and U.S. Secretary of Labor, who took over as NHLPA Executive Director in 2023. Walsh heavily canvassed players over the first half of last season for their input before sitting down with Gary Bettman early this year to hash out details. The NHL and NHLPA have already announced significant salary cap increases over the next 3 seasons. Sources told ESPN that the new CBA is expected to maintain a 50-50 split of hockey-related revenue between players and owners. Daily Faceoff, and when it comes to this, our own good old MF Michael Fletcher were the first to report that the CBA is close to being finished. So MF reported this. He sent this to us in our TXN Sports World news and views chat earlier this afternoon. And we won't know all the logistics of this until tomorrow. And so I don't know if this goes into effect next season or if it goes into effect after it. So there's nothing more to say.
I can actually give you some late breaking news here, Anthony.
Yes.
Her Emily Kaplan from ESPN, she is reporting that this will go into effect in the 2026-2027 season.
Wow.
So this will be the year after. So next season, 25-26, will be 82 games, and they'll have the traditional format. 26-27 will be the implementation of all of this stuff that was talked about through the CBA. So 26-27 is the timetable for the 84 game season, the limited preseason, and also all the other um all the other stuff that was going into the collective bargaining, because supposedly they had 1 year left. This upcoming season was the final year of the collective bargaining before the dreaded lockout. But they were not only able to ratify this, but they were able to do this with a 4 year extension. So now this gets extended to the 2030-2031 season.
Wow. That is something. And the last time I recall an 84 game season, I believe it was the year that the New York Rangers won the Stanley Cup in 1994. I think that's the last time I can remember an 84 game season, because the following season they had a lockout shortened season. I think they only had like 48 games or something like that in 95. And then and then every year since 96, it's been 82 games, with the exception of that, of course, 2005, they had that strike that ended up costing us a whole season. The 2004-2005 season, where we had no hockey at all. You want to talk about hard times for us back then.
And then not only that, but you also got to remember the shortened 50 game sprint that we had for because of COVID as well.
And don't forget the lockout shortened season of 2012 and 13.
Yes.
Where the Chicago Blackhawks won it all. And
yes.
And then of course the COVID season. And of course we also had the bubble and that very unique Stanley Cup playoff tournament in the 2021 season, where it ended up being an all Eastern Conference Stanley Cup final with Montreal and Tampa. So
yeah.
But man, oh man, I mean, this is a big deal, and we're gonna definitely stay in depth with this as the days and weeks or whatever go by, and if anything else comes of this, we'll definitely be sure to let you know on a future show, because now we're getting to the point where we're coming up on our least favorite time of the year as a sports fan, where every sport except baseball, nothing. It's all about baseball. And
yeah,
those dreaded summer days. This
is what we kind of like to call the slow season of our TXN Sports World. This is kind of this is where we really start to do a lot of spot shows more than anything else, because if there isn't anything going on in the rest of the world, there's really no point. So yeah, this becomes kind of we take what we can get, type of episodes coming up.
Yes. So this is the time of the year we dread, but we got to get through it, and then once we do, then that's when we're full speed ahead again. So it won't be for a little bit, because we do have some shows coming up. We got this show tonight, and of course next week will be our annual NBA draft recap show. So
yep.
We'll have more on that later, and then of course after that, I believe we'll be getting ready for the Major League Baseball Home Run Derby and All-Star game.
Yep. And I do believe that ESPY is also right around that same point too, if I remember correctly. The ESPY Awards is also right around that All-Star weekend.
I do believe that's right. So I'll check on that in just a moment. But I could see a few more weeks of shows, and then we'll probably take a hiatus up until the tail end of August, where we will preview the college football and NFL seasons, and then I believe it's August 28th. August 21st will be that show, our regulation season finale, August 21, and then August 28th will be the premiere of another brand new season of TXN Sports World College Football Thursday.
Yep.
So And then I believe the following week, it'll be NFL Friday or Saturday. So figure that out, when we get to it.
It will be NFL Fridays because then the Cerebral Smack Talk gets moved to Saturday.
Got it. Okay, so it'll be NFL Friday the week after, which I believe the date of that would be Friday night, September the 5th. So,
yes.
September the 5th, and then that's when we go full speed ahead into the football seasons. So look forward to bringing you that in a couple of months. But that's just some of the content that you're going to expect here on TXN Sports World over the coming weeks, and we look forward to bringing it all to you as always. So with all that, that's a very when MF sent that in our chat this afternoon, I was like, what? And I was just sitting down to lunch there. I was sitting down to my lunch break on my job, and I got that, and I jumped out to MF, and I'm like, hey, is this effective next season? And then he told me what he just told you. So there you go. So see what happens. We'll see what happens. So with all that being said, we got a lot of recaps to get into. So let's do it. And we're going to start it off. Our first recap of the night, the UFL championship game that went down just 2 weeks ago on Saturday night, June the 14th, from the Dome at America's Center in St. Louis, Missouri. It was the USFL champion Michigan Panthers squaring off against the XFL champion DC Defenders. And it was the DC Defenders winning the UFL championship, and they did it in grand style, putting away the Michigan Panthers by a final score of 58-34. 58-34. The DC Defenders all over, and I do mean all over, the Michigan Panthers. So with that, let's just trying to bear with me for a moment as I look up the numbers. All right, here we go. I got it. For the champion Defenders, they were led by MVP Jordan Tiamu, 21 of 28, 390 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Smith was the leading rusher, 10 carries for 63 yards. Rowland had a rushing touchdown to go with 53 yards. Jackson, 2 rushing touchdowns, 46 yards. Tiamu had a rushing touchdown, 28 yards. Mickens was the leading receiver with 6 catches for 132 yards and a touchdown. Scott had 1 catch, but it was a 73-yard touchdown bomb. And Powell had a receiving touchdown, and with 2 catches and 26 yards, and Moore had a touchdown as well. 2 catches for 13 yards. Defense recorded, it looks like 2 sacks here. Yeah, 2 sacks for the defense. And I believe they only had 1 interception. Yeah, 1 interception. Thomas had the interception. It was the sacks went to Roberson and Fisher for DC. And on the other side for the Michigan Panthers, Bryce Perkins, 21 of 35, 338 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. McCrary was the leading rusher with 62 yards and a touchdown. Turner had a nice night receiving, 10 catches for 168 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Mariner had a receiving touchdown to go with 84 yards on 4 catches. Defense. Looks like 2 players had half a sack apiece. Stallworth and Stone had half a sack each. And there were fumbles. And There was one fumble recovery by DC, and that was by Drew Jr. and that is that. So a very impressive performance by the DC Defenders, winning the UFL championship. I believe the 58 points they put up, I was told, was a spring football record. I don't think any team in the history of spring football has put up more points than the DC Defenders did in a single game. And Jordan Tiamu, man, oh man, both quarterbacks were gunslingers. Tiamu and Perkins, they both look great, but at the end of the day, it was Jordan Tiamu and the DC Defenders who put on an awesome, one of the most awesome and amazing offensive displays I have seen in a spring football game. So, and what a story for Shannon Harris, the new he took over as interim head coach. I mean, what a great story that is. I mean, their original coach was fired in right around March 23rd, I believe he was fired, and the interim head coach came in and took over, and he went on to lead this team to the championship, and very impressive indeed. And Shannon Harris, he took over for Reggie Barlow. Reggie Barlow actually he was not fired. He stepped down. Reggie Barlow stepped down to become the head football coach at Tennessee State University. And then on March 23rd of this year, Shannon Harris was named the interim head coach. I think we're going to have to remove that interim tag. So there's no doubt about that. So congratulations to the DC Defenders. Well deserved. And not much more to say. MF, the DC Defenders, 58 points, spring football record. One of the most prolific and unbelievable offensive displays I've ever seen.
Yeah, and they absolutely are deserving of winning the USL. They just brought it, and they just did it in such a way that was such a dominating performance. And for them, yeah, this is the culmination of the journey that they were going towards. This is one of those rare times where they did not want to be denied. And I know a lot of people felt like, well, Michigan crushed Birmingham, so that should open the door for them to win the title because of the running attack. They stymied that running attack for most of the night, and they were the ones who were the aggressors. They took it right to them, and to me, they were fitting and deserving champions of the UFL. So, congratulations to the DC Defenders for winning the title. Really nothing more to add. And Michael Bolick, I give it to you.
Yeah, like you said, this was just a complete and utter beatdown by DC. I mean, but then again, this was a high-scoring game. So if you're a defensive guy that likes to see low-scoring game, well, this definitely wasn't for you. And yeah, I mean, Michigan. I mean, yeah, the over 30 points. That's not bad. But the only problem was they just couldn't find a way to stop DC, and DC just really took it to them. And like you said, they are very, very deserving of it. So yeah, so there's really nothing more to say except congratulations to the DC Defenders, the winners of the second annual UFL championship. So it's yours, Florio.
All right. And we move on to our next recap, and that is to the Stanley Cup. The winners and still the Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers, they did it, and and they absolutely took it to the Edmonton Oilers. So here it is. Stanley's stay in South Florida is getting extended. The Florida Panthers repeated as Stanley Cup champions by defeating the Edmonton Oilers 5-1 in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final back on June 17th, becoming the first back-to-back Stanley Cup champs since the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2020 and 2021, and the third team to do it this century. Sam Reinhart scored 4 goals, becoming just the 6th player in league history and the first since Maurice Rocket Richard in 1957 to get that many in a game in the final. His third to complete the hat trick sent rats along with hats flying onto the ice. And Matthew Tkachuk, one of the faces of the franchise, fittingly scored the cup clincher. So for the second year in a row, the Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions. And they did it in grand style, putting away the Edmonton Oilers by a score of 5-1. MF, Doc, you said it best. Back to back, belly to belly, it's a jumping jamboree. For the second year in a row, the Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions. Very well said.
Yeah, and where I got that little back to back belly to belly jumping jamboree from.
Rockapella, Carmen
You
Sandiego.
got it. You got it. You know your stuff. Well done, Florio.
Zombie Jamboree.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those that I just didn't know how to say it, and I didn't know what was going to be how to announce it at the time that it happened, and that was the thing that it felt right to just say it that way, and it kind of, I don't know, it just fit for the moment. So you don't really know how to script it. You just let it flow when it happens, and it just came out the way it did, and I'm glad it stuck. So
and one thing I forgot to mention, Sam Bennett winning the Conn Smythe Trophy as the most valuable player in the Stanley Cup playoffs with a playoff high 15 goals. Wow.
And I know a lot of people were complaining because a lot of people were like, well, what about Brad Marchand? Marchand had like 6 goals in the final. Why did he not get Conn Smythe? Well, here's the reason why, folks.
Yeah.
Because the Conn Smythe Trophy is throughout the entire playoff. It's not the Stanley Cup final. It goes from game 1 of round 1 all the way through to the final. So whenever the point of the ending of the final. Now, if this was just Stanley Cup final alone, yes, I would say Brad Marchand should have been the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. However, I do agree that Sam Bennett deserved this award. I think he was the right guy for this award because of what he did. 15 goals in the playoffs, which was a record at the time, and he was by far, I thought, the best Panther on the team. Even though he didn't really have that breakout moment, like many breakout moments in the Cup final, but without a doubt, he was definitely worthy of the of the Conn Smythe and winning and for what he did. So it was definitely a great moment. And look, the domination of Florida continues. And it doesn't matter if you're in Florida or Tampa Bay, something's going on in that water in Florida, because every time, the last 6 years now, a Florida team's been in the Stanley Cup, 4 times they walked away with that cup. So there's not just a U.S. dominance, there's a Florida dominance right now. And Tampa and Florida has figured it out. The rest of the league has not. And that's the bigger thing, is that if you're a New York Ranger fan, if you're a Boston Bruins fan, if you're a fan of every other team, you're probably wondering, how are they doing this? What are they doing? What is the formula that makes this thing go right for the Florida teams? Because, like I said, Tampa got 2 out of the first 3, and now Florida has got in the last 2 Stanley Cups, and their third time they got knocked out. So it's one of those things you kind of wonder what is going on, and how is Florida of all places delivering these cups. So I mean, it's interesting, man. And with the team that they got and the core that they have, you kind of have to wonder, is there a possibility for the three-peat? Now, we haven't seen a three-peat ever. Like, you gotta go all the way back to the 80s. From 1980 to 83,
4 in a row.
when the New York Islanders did 4 in a row. That's the last time a team has won more than 3 Stanley Cups at a time. So that's the scary part, is what's going to happen now. But obviously, Florida's going to be the clear-cut favorite right out of the gate. You kind of have to feel it.
Yep.
Then the question becomes, who's that next team up? Dallas looked pretty good, but they faded at the end. Edmonton looked really good. They faded at the end. Then you got to go at the East. What is Washington going to look like? Is Ovechkin going to come back? We don't know. Pittsburgh, it looks like there's a fire sale with them. The Rangers are nowhere to be seen right now. We do not know what New York is coming with next year. And Boston, hate to say it, they might be on a rebuild. So, I mean, Carolina, maybe. You don't know. And then, what about that next echelon of teams? We don't know. Right now, Florida is the clear-cut favorite going into next season. We just got to wait and see how the rest goes. So, nothing more to say. Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, yeah, what a way for the Panthers to repeat as champions. I mean, my goodness, they dominated Edmonton in that game 6, where it was just a complete and utter beatdown. And yeah, like you said, if this was just the finals, then I would say Brad Marchand would have gotten the MVP of that finals. But because it's the overall for the playoffs in general, then yeah, I definitely agree with Bennett being the one who got the Conn Smythe Trophy. So, and speaking of Bruins, I'm sure there's some Bruins fans who are pissed off that, I mean, because Brad Marchand, the moment he held that trophy, I'm sure he was sticking it to all the Bruins fans who and the Bruins themselves. So, and that there are probably some people right now that there are some fans who are probably like, yeah, you got lucky because you went to a really good team. You went to a rival. So, but hey, the Bruins made their choice. They wanted to get rid of him. And yeah, so I think they could be the favorites to three-peat. So, but there's going to be a lot of other teams that are going to have something to say about it. So, I mean, like you said, Dallas could be one, Edmonton could be another. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So it's yours, Florio.
Yeah, we will indeed see what happens. Dallas, yes. Edmonton, yes. Agreed. But there are a few there are a couple of others. I mean, you did mention Washington after the great year they had this year. Let's not forget about the Winnipeg Jets, who won the President's Trophy. We can't leave them out. And another team, I know they have had more playoff disappointments than any other team that I can ever remember. The most snake bit franchise when it comes to postseason, and that is the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've got a good enough team to get there. It's just that they have had disappointment after disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And I was very high on them. I thought they had a legitimate chance this year. But then they ran into Florida. So they had them down 2-0. But then Florida was able to come back and win the series. And then Florida was just off and running after that. So there is no doubt about it in my mind and in all our minds. It's not that the Florida Panthers can be the favorites. No, but like they are the favorites going into next year. There's no doubt about it. And there's also no doubt about it that they are now the newest dynasty in the NHL right now. And over the last decade and a half, we have had quite a few dynasties. There was the Chicago Blackhawks, and then the LA Kings had a brief dynasty, and then it went back to Chicago. And then the Pittsburgh Penguins had a little mini dynasty. And then it was the Tampa Bay Lightning, and now it's the Florida Panthers. And they've been to the final 3 straight years. They've won the last 2. The first one didn't go well because they got smashed by Vegas. When Vegas smashed them 2 years ago, I'm always going to consider that the most dominant cup clinching win of all time. But what we saw in Game 6 with Florida, with their dismantling of Edmonton, this just 9 nights ago, that was the second most dominant cup clinching victory that I have seen in all my years of following the Stanley Cup playoffs, which I started doing right around 94, 95, right around the Ranger jersey era. And right around 96, 97 was when it kicked into high, and almost 30 years. And MF and I, we've been all over it. Bullock's been with us for the ride as well. And yeah, so whether you love them or you hate them, you cannot help but put respect on their name. And they most definitely do deserve the respect, whether you like them or you don't. And congratulations to the Florida Panthers, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. Very dominant and very impressive performance in game number 6. So there's no doubt about it. They will be the overwhelming favorites going into next season. You keep all those guys together, oh yeah. They've got a legitimate chance to do something we haven't seen in over 40 years. Seen a team win at least 3 in a row. The Islanders in 80, 81, 82, and 83. They were the last to do it, but that was 4. So Tampa almost did it in 22, but they got tripped up by the Colorado Avalanche. So, and Colorado, that's another team to keep an eye on next year as well with that great young talent. So, but another hockey season comes to an end. It's sad, and it was an especially sad year for both of us. I mean, for all of us. I mean, for me and MF, our Rangers didn't make it. Bullock's Bruins didn't make it. And Brad Marchand, oh yeah, he's counting his blessings right about now. So 14 years he had to wait to get a Stanley Cup. And there it is. I mean, he was on the team in 2011 that won that when the Bruins won it in 11. But he had to wait 14 long years just to get another shot at it.
And the thing is, he had 2 chances to try to win another Stanley Cup.
2013 and 2019. But the Bruins got tripped up by Chicago and then St. Louis. So we shall see. We shall see. And Brad Marchand got his moment, but he got his moment. In a way, it was kind of like a Ray Bourque situation. I mean, Ray Bourque had some chances in Boston in his career, but he felt that like the Bruins were going nowhere. So he went. He wanted to find a contending team to get that cup, and he went to Colorado, and look how that worked out for him.
But the only difference is he already got the Stanley Cup title in 2011.
Yes, Marchand did.
Yeah.
But he obviously
regarding Marchand.
He obviously wanted another one. So you don't want to just stop at one. You want to get as many as you can. But nonetheless, congratulations to the Florida Panthers, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. Well-deserved, and they damn sure earned it. And can't say I'm surprised. So not much more to say there. So right now I'm going to turn the mic over to good old MF Michael Fletcher because it is the staple of our summer shows, and that is the Big Three. This past week, this past Sunday, They were in the legendary Baltimore Arena in Baltimore, Maryland. And I know MF's probably getting his notes ready. And just let us know when you're ready, MF. And of course, the Big Three definitely got off to a great start in Chicago the previous week. And this past Sunday, they were in Baltimore. And with that, MF, here we go. Week 2. Let's talk about week 2 of the Big Three in Baltimore, and then we'll set the table for week number 3 coming up this Sunday in South Beach.
Yes, indeed. So week 2 of the Big Three, we start out with the first 2 games that were on CBS. It was the Detroit Amps and the Miami 305, and you can legitimately say this was the game of the day. It was Detroit winning it by the final score of 50-47. Man, what a game this was. And yeah, if you're wondering who was the man that did it for them, Joe Johnson once again at it again. 29 points in this game. Jeremy Pargo got 11, and Shakur Joyston got 10, and then Lance Stevenson, Michael Beasley, both with 18 and 17 respectively. Unfortunately, the Miami 305 drops to 1-1, and Detroit is 2-0 in this Big Three season. Then, the second game of the day, the hometown DMV trilogy went up against the Boston Ballhogs, and the Ballhogs spoils the party, kicks down the door, makes themselves at home, and basically does a shoo-wee and a victory for them. They win it by the final score of 50-42. And in this game, the high man for the winners for the Boston Ballhogs, the high man on this game was Jonathan Simmons. Had 18 points. Deshaun Stevens had 12 points, and Kevin Murphy had 10 points. Earl Clark had 15 points and 12 rebounds in the losing effort, with Franklin Sessions and Dewan Summers having 13 and 11. Isaiah Austin and Franklin Sessions had 13 and 11 respectively in the loss. So they dropped to 0-2. Boston Ballhogs are 1-1. Then in the late games, the third game that went down on Vice, it was the Chicago Triplet taking down the Houston Hurricanes by the final score of 51-34. Boys, it wasn't even close. This was the beatdown of the day. This was the massacre, and it was a 3-headed monster. Najee Kaur, 16 points with 3 rebounds. Montrezl Harrell, 15 points and 7 rebounds. And Chris Allen with 14 points respectively. The high man was Jerron Green for the Hurricanes, and it wasn't even close. First half, it was 26-21, which was fine, but then a 25-13 beatdown in the second half that pretty much sealed it for the triplet. They really started turning up the defensive pressure, and they crushed them when it was all said and done. And then in the final game of the day, from Baltimore, it was the LA Riot and the Dallas Power, and the LA Riot wins it by the final score of 50-45, and it was all about Jordan Crawford. 28 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, one steal, and a block. Dwight Howard had 9 and 5, but he was more for his output. But Dallas, they tried their best. Glenn Rice Jr. had 19 points. Paul Millsap, a double-double, 16 and 14 respectively. But they just couldn't hang, and they lose this game. They drop to 1-1, and so does the Miami, and so does the LA. The LA Riot goes to 1-1. Dallas Power is 1-1. All right, now here we go. Week number 3, and we're going to the 305 of Miami, Florida. We're going to South Beach, baby. Home of the Miami Heat. And here are the games. Game 1, tipping off at 1 o'clock on the mothership on CBS. It is the LA Riot going up against the Houston Rickhands. Game number 2, tip off about a little after 2 o'clock. The home team, Miami 305, they take on the Boston Ballhogs. Game number 3, which will be on Vice TV starting about a little after 3 o'clock. It will be the Dallas Power versus the Detroit Amps. And the final game of the day, game number 4, also will be on Vice TV. It will be Trilogy, the DMV Trilogy. They take on the Chicago Triplets. So, with that said, during Cerebral Smack Talk next week, we will be reviewing the Big 3 and previewing the next week, which will be week number 4. And boys, we are going to TD Garden, Boston. Get ready. We're coming in 2 weeks. Anthony, it's yours.
Yes, indeed. And very much looking forward to that. MF, excellent job as always. And so far so good. Two very exciting weeks of Big 3 action. And the thing is, next week they're going to have a bye week. They're going to be taking next week off because of the 4th of July holiday weekend, obviously next week, and rightfully so. But the following week, but next week we can definitely do a recap. We'll just hold off on the preview. We'll preview we'll preview that in a couple of weeks. Right around the time we get into the All-Star stuff, and we'll see about the ESPYs as well. So, but yeah, very exciting stuff when it comes to the Big 3. No question about that. One last order of business here tonight when it comes to here on TXN Sports World. We have one last recap for you, and that is the NBA Finals. For the first time since 2016, the NBA Finals saw the 2 most exciting words in all of sports. Game 7. The Oklahoma City Thunder took home the 2025 NBA championship, the first in the franchise's 17 years there, with a 103-91 victory over the Indiana Pacers this past Sunday night in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, capping a historically dominant year and a remarkable turnaround. The Thunder went from winning 22 and 24 games, respectively, in the 2020-21 and 21-22 seasons to claiming the number 1 seed in the Western Conference playoffs each of the last 2 years. They followed up a 56-win season last year with 68 wins this year, one of the 7 best single-season marks in NBA history. They set the record for the largest point differential of all time in the regular season, smashing a mark that had stood for more than half a century. Oklahoma City ultimately won 84 games between the regular season and the playoffs, tying the 96-97 Chicago Bulls for third most in any season. Only the 2016-17 Golden State Warriors with 88, and the Chicago Bulls of 95-96, the 72-10 Bulls, 187, and they won more. Despite the Thunder's accomplishment, Game 7 might be most remembered for an unfortunate reason, as Indiana Pacers superstar Tyrese Halliburton suffered what his father confirmed was a right Achilles injury. while trying to drive to the basket with 4:55 left in the first quarter. He would be ruled out for the rest of the game a short time later because of the injury, bringing what had been to that point a breathtaking postseason to a heartbreaking conclusion. So there is not much more to say on that. So Michael Bullock, come on in. And yes, the Oklahoma City Thunder won the NBA championship, very well deserved. The first for that franchise as the Oklahoma City Thunder. They won it before in 1979 as a member as when they were the Seattle Supersonics, led by your old friend Dennis Johnson, before he was a Boston Celtic, of course, and did that in Washington against the Bullets at the old US Air Arena in Landover, Maryland in 79 in 5 games. 46 long years for the Sonics / for the Seattle Oklahoma City franchise. Congratulations to them, yes, but you cannot help but feel for Tyrese Halliburton with that Achilles injury, just like what happened to Jason Tatum in New York against the Knicks, and also Damian Lillard as well. So, but your thoughts on all of it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a dominant season from the get-go for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, and like you said, I mean, 21 and 21-22, they during those times they won, like you said, 22 games, 24 games. You know, like thinking, when is this team going to be back to like what it was in 2012 when they were last in the NBA Finals? When they had that threesome of Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook. But that team couldn't get it done. But this team here that was in the finals did. Led by, in some people's minds, the best player in the NBA. And, of course, the finals MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, what a performance from him. I mean, he was the regular season MVP. Now it's capped off being the finals MVP. And he had other guys helping him. I mean, he had Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Harvenstein. I mean, so many guys really contributed to this title run. And yeah, congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder, their first championship since becoming the Oklahoma City Thunder. But major kudos to the Indiana Pacers. I mean, many people thought going into this finals that Indiana didn't stand a chance against them, that this was only going to go maybe a sweep, maybe 5 games, but they really took this team to the limit. They went the full 7 games, and yeah, you gotta feel for Tyrese Halliburton. And the thing is, before the injury, he was off to such a hot start. I mean, he already had like 9 points, and all of them came from beyond the arc. But it was that drive that really, and the moment you saw him down and he was in pain, I'm like thinking, oh geez, this can't be good. And part of me was like thinking, I hope it's nothing too serious, but you could just see he could not put any weight on that leg, and that's when it was well, first it was Tyrese Halliburton's dad that confirmed it was an Achilles injury, and it wasn't until I think it was about a day or two later where it was officially confirmed that it was a torn Achilles tendon. I mean, I'm sure that's not the way they wanted that season to end. And you know what? Speaking of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I mean, major kudos to him. I mean, the moment, when Halliburton got hurt, he went over to check on him, and then of course after winning the title, he went over to Tyrese Halliburton and showed some love, and he even said, "You know what? You hate to see it happen to someone like him. I mean, worked so hard to get to this point. You're in a game 7, and then this happens. That's got to be like the worst feeling in the world when something like this happens. To know you're that close to maybe bringing home the first NBA championship for the Pacers, and then that happens. So, man, that's just it's. And you want to know the other thing, guys? I mean, the moment when you mentioned not just Tyrese Halliburton, but also Jason Tatum and Damian Lillard. I mean, what's the thing, guys? When it comes to those three, when it with what just happened with them,
They
what's the
all wear
number?
the
What?
number 0.
Yes, that's the thing. I don't know. Could we say that? I'm not gonna. How do I say it?
You think that number's cursed?
I mean, I can't help but think that. I mean, here it is. You had 3 players. I mean, 3 of your best: Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum, and now Tyrese Halliburton, all going down with torn Achilles tendons. I mean,
I
what do you
I
think,
have to
Fletch?
disagree with it
I mean,
because
you can't help but think that. Now, is it? Would I completely say it? Probably not. But you can't help but at least think that.
I have to dismiss it. I don't believe it. I don't believe that. I don't believe in that. I think they're just freak occurrences. Um, I think it's just the wear and tear of the
Bad luck.
season. No, I think it's just the wear and tear of the season because of the number of games that all these guys were playing at the time that these injuries occurred. And
Well,
remember, a lot of them also played the Olympics the year before, so they
you know
didn't
what?
really
You
have
know what,
that much.
Fletch? Fletch. Oddly enough, that was what my father was telling me earlier today.
Mm,
He thinks that because, and you also meant, like he mentioned, and I couldn't believe I forgot about that because these 3 played in the Olympics.
yeah,
So they had to play. And also, let's not forget with Jason Tatum coming off of his appearance in the NBA Finals last season.
yeah. So there's not much. There wasn't
All
that
those
much
things.
time.
So,
It it
yeah.
it, it takes a toll. It does take a toll, and we don't realize it until it's too late. That's why I kind of that was the narrative I was going for more than the first number and that. I think your father is spot on there, Bullock, because that was the first thing that was popping into my head more than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, even though Jason Tatum didn't really play all that much in the Olympics, but well, that's another story for another day. But all in all, major congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder, but also major kudos to the Indiana Pacers for getting it to a game 7 when a lot of people didn't think that this series was going to last long. So it's yours, Florio.
Yes, indeed. And I remember when the Pacers stole game 1, I asked MF, "Does that change your opinion?" MF said no, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yes, credit where credit is due to the Indiana Pacers for putting up one hell of a fight against the most dominant and the best team in the NBA. It's the second year in a row that the team with the best record in the NBA went on to win the NBA championship. The Thunder this year, and of course the Celtics did it a year ago. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has joined an elite group, and I do mean elite, 3 of the all-time greats. He joins a list where Shea Gilgeous-Alexander joined Elite Company in 2025, capping off a historic season by bringing the Oklahoma City Thunder its first NBA title since becoming the Thunder, whereas they were the Seattle Supersonics before, and only won one other title back in 1979, of course. With the win, Gilgeous-Alexander is one of a few players who have won an NBA championship, league MVP, and the scoring title in a single season. The first to do it, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, known at the time as Lou Alcindor, from the Milwaukee Bucks in 1971. He averaged 32 points a game, 16 rebounds, and 3.3 assists a game. Notable achievements: Hall of Famer, 6-time MVP, 2-time scoring champ, 6-time NBA champion, and a 19-time All-Star. The next to do it, Michael Jeffrey Jordan from the Chicago Bulls. He did it 4 times. First in 1991, averaging 31.5 points a game, 6 rebounds, and 5.5 assists a game. Then he did it again in 1992, 30 points a game, 6.4 rebounds, 6.1 assists a game. 1996, 30.4 points a game, 6.6 rebounds, and 4.3 assists. And 1998, 28.7 points a game, 5.8 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. Notable achievements for the GOAT: Hall of Fame, 5-time MVP, 10-time scoring champion, 6-time NBA champion, 14-time All-Star. And the last to do it before Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Shaquille O'Neal with the Los Angeles Lakers in the year 2000. 29.7 points a game, 13.6 rebounds a game, and 3.8 assists a game. Shaq, of course, Hall of Famer, 1-time MVP, 2-time scoring champion, 4-time NBA champion, 15-time All-Star. And then this year, it was Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, 32.7 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6.4 assists a game, 1-time MVP, 1-time scoring champion, 1-time NBA champion, and a 3-time All-Star. And the sky is the limit for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And he's just getting started. I mean, that young man, whenever he's ready to call it a career, he's going to go down as one of the greatest to ever do it. And this championship most certainly validates it. And he is the best in the game today. And we talked about favorites going into next year in the NHL. Well, of course, Oklahoma City, we got to put them in there. Of course, Minnesota, that's another team you got to watch out for. Indiana, Boston, the Lakers, Denver. I mean, New York. I mean, early front runners for next year. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But congratulations to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder for an absolutely dominant season. Well-deserved championship. Very happy for that team. And they most certainly earn it. And our thoughts and our prayers, and there's no doubt about it, prayers up for Tyrese Halliburton with that Achilles injury. But then again, not just him, but also prayers up for Jason Tatum and Damian Lillard as well. So we wish all of them the speediest of recoveries. And we hope to see you back on the court real soon, even though we know it will not be for a long time. So prayers up for all of those boys. So there isn't much more for me to add here. So there's nothing left to say. MF, take it home.
Yeah, no, this was a great NBA Finals, no doubt about it. An incredible stories, to say the very least, up and down across the board. Obviously, a heartbreak for Indiana, coming one game shy of winning the NBA championship. But, you know, the right team won. The best team won. All season long, Oklahoma City was the most dominant team, and they deserve to be the NBA World Champions. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with Tyrese Halliburton. And we'll see. We'll see what happens next season. So nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
All right. And with that will put the bow on this edition of TXN Sports World. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always. We will be back with you again tomorrow night 11 p.m. immediately following SmackDown over on MF's channel, BraceFan 95, for another edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk. We will have TNA Impact. We will have Friday Night SmackDown. We will also preview the Night of Champions pay-per-view. And because Bullock and I had a time constraint the other night, we will also have the results of RWA Spectacle. I know we were supposed to do it on Tuesday, but Bullock and I, we had a very late start on Tuesday night, and we had to do a rapid fire show, so we didn't have enough time to really cover that. But and not only that, but I also wanted to have MF with us because he is our RWA guy. So we're gonna go over the results of that show tomorrow night, in addition to TNA Impact, Friday Night SmackDown, our reviews of that, and of course our preview of the Night of Champions. And I would imagine Saturday night around 10 or 10:30 or so, we will have our recap of Night of Champions, because remember, it's an early start time, 1 p.m. Eastern for us here on Saturday afternoon. And that'll be Saturday. And then Tuesday, of course, we got Ridiculously Raw, Monday Night Raw, and NXT as we start the build to Evolution, maybe even start some SummerSlam build for that show. Who knows? And Monday Night Raw, oh, by the way, a special start time this Monday night, a special start time of 6 p.m. Eastern on Netflix. So remember, it's 6, not 8. It's 6. So you got to tune in at 6 o'clock for that one. Dinner time, pretty much. And then that's Tuesday. And then 1 week from tonight, of course, as I mentioned earlier, it will be our annual NBA draft recap special, where we will do our team by team grades. We'll go through each team. We'll give you our grades, what we liked, what we didn't like, who were our winners, who were our losers, and that's it. So that's it. So until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk over on MF's channel, BraceFan 95, it's Anthony Florio here for good old MF Michael Fletcher, for the Phenom Michael Bullock, and of course, always and forever, our First Lady Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Friday. And until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching TXN Sports World right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and Streamia.com. For everybody who has been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long and bye, everybody. Bye.